What should you know if you are renting out your property for the very first time? All right, guys, we're going to talk about first-time rental properties right here, and I've got a lot to say on this topic. I've been renting properties for over 20 years now, and I can tell you I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've also got a pretty killer system that I think is second to none that has been working for me phenomenally well. But let's just talk about this. The very first thing is who you get as the tenant matters more than anything. And I look at tenants as hiring someone for a job. And I want to get the very, very best person for that job because I need somebody that's going to take care of my property. Now, I, in the past, have been concerned. I was so worried about making a monthly payment that I was going to pass over or just put the first person that came along into the property. I've done that before, and that's a huge mistake. You will save so much more money by waiting and getting the right person than you will putting in the wrong person. And let me give you an example about this. But before I do, I need to give a big thank you to those who asked this question about what to know when renting out your property for the first time. I really appreciate it. If you've got a question you'd like to have me answer, type it in the comments below and I'll create a video just like this for you and for all of my other subscribers. So type it in the comments below. I will really make a video just like this for you. Okay, guys, so let's talk about this. One experience that I had is I put some tenants in. I was really worried about making the monthly payment and going a month without collecting rents. This is before I had my new system that I'm working today. And so I put somebody in the property. Well, guess what? These people did not take care of the property. They were smoking in the property. They had more people on the premises than they were supposed to, adults that they were supposed to. And when we went in there at one time, we could see this property is really in disrepair, not even close to the condition about what we put it into. So we just made the decision to keep the people in there. We just thought, hey, how much more damage could they do? Now, they were always paying rent. Sometimes it was late, sometimes it was a problem to collect, but they were getting their rent paid. So we just said, well, you know what? The property is not in good shape now. We might as well keep them in there. What more damage? What more problems? What can really happen? Well, I was in for a huge eye-opening because once these guys stopped making their payments and we started the eviction process and we got into the property, we noticed a few things. When we walked around the property, we saw some what looked like Coca-Cola cans that were shook up and sprayed all over, and we noticed some black paint, and we noticed some windows that were completely shaded out. And so we started saying to ourselves, this doesn't look good. We maybe should get a meth test done on this. And sure enough, when we got a meth test done, it tested positive. And if you want to know where it tested positive the most, it was in the nursery. It was in the baby's room where the meth tested the most positive. Can you believe that? There's a crib, and right there, I can remember it just like it was yesterday. Super, super disappointing. So we ended up having to do that. Now, meth remediation is not fun to do. If you've done it before, it is not fun to do. And there's different vantage points of what percentages of which state you have to do decontamination versus others. If you have to disclose it or not disclose it, that's going to be a state-by-state type thing. But needless to say, I had to go in there and have everything decontaminated, which is a pretty expensive process. I think we ended up spending about $20,000 when it was all said and done. They come in and they spray everything out. They have to take out all the carpets, spray that, put new carpet, new pad in. We had to paint the property. We had to do some more work to it. I don't think the decontamination is always going to cost that much, but it was something that we had to do. So the question is, if my mortgage payment on that property was, let's say, $800, how many months could have I waited and still been money ahead? And let's just say it was $1,000. Well, if I spent $20,000, I could have waited 20 months with having the property vacant. And what am I saying is a vacant property is much better than putting the wrong person into the property. So the question is, well, if we want to get the right person into the property and we don't want to have our property sit vacant, what do we do? Well, good tenants like good deals. And so my strategy is to under rent the property. I always want to be $50 to $100 less than market rates for the same condition of property. Because if I do that, I get two things. Number one, I get great tenants fighting over my property. And secondly, I get great tenants that stay in my property a very long time. And third, I don't have to worry about turnover problems as much, and people rent the property faster. So I basically say, let's look at everything in the same condition as mine. I'm going to knock mine down $50 to $100 depending upon the market. Super hot market right now, I'm going to be $50 less. If the market's not as competitive for rental properties, I'll be $100 less. That's basically what I'm looking at doing. So I'm great condition and I'm less price. And what that does is it gets droves of people to me. Now you've got to be careful with that because you're going to get applications both from great tenants and from poor tenants. They're poor, not meaning don't have money, but or tenants you don't want to rent to because they do a crappy job. Now, one of the things you've got to do with each one of these is do a credit, background, and evictions check. One of the things you can do is find out if this tenant has ever been evicted before. If that tenant has been evicted, you never want to rent to anybody that's been evicted. When it comes to credit, I'm not looking for perfect credit, but I'm looking for trends. I'm looking for people who stiff Starbucks. They bounce a check to Starbucks. They don't pay this. They've got 7-Eleven coming after them. Those types of things are the people that tell me these are deadbeats that I don't want to be renting to, which is quite different than when I see somebody that has some medical bills that they're late paying on, but everything else looks great and they don't have any other problems. Those are two different scenarios here. So you've got to have a way of pulling credit, background, and finding an evictions check. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, most states and cities have an apartment association. This is either a nonprofit or a for-profit association that's looking after landlords. And if you do that and get in contact with them, ask them, who should I be using for my credit, background, and eviction checks? It's one of the best things you can do. Lots of times these apartment associations are working with government agencies to try and self-regulate so the government doesn't come in and impose some regulations upon them. It's a great way to do that. So if you're a first-time landlord, number one, a vacant property is better than putting the wrong person in. Number two, make sure you do your credit and background checks and eviction checks. And number three, you want to make sure that you're under renting the property, which will get your property rented faster. Now let's just talk about this whole under rented type thing. Now before I do, if you're enjoying this video, hit that thumbs up button and say that you like it. It gives me warm fuzzies every time I see them, so thank you. So let's talk about this. You're gonna say, well, Ryan, if I'm renting my property for $100 less per month, that's $1,200 less in a year. I am losing money on this. Well, how much would it cost you to have your property go vacant? Well, if your payment's $1,000, then it's going to cost you $1,000. And so I look at this and say, well, if I can have my property not go vacant one more month, how much does that save me? Well, the other thing for my tenants, they typically say 5 years. And so most people plan on a vacancy every single year. If I can save 5 years of vacancy, I'm so much more money ahead. But it gets better than this. The other thing is I require my tenants to take care of some minor repairs, and if there is a problem, they have a deductible, a $50 deductible for work to be done. So basically what happens here is I only rent to, or in my case, hire tenants that have toolboxes and have lawnmowers, because I am not interested in renting to somebody that wants to be at the Marriott. If they're used to picking up the phone and saying, the toilet's leaking, the grass is too long, my air conditioning is too cold, that's not who I want to be renting to. I want to rent to people that have a toolbox and they know how to do some minor things. I'm not saying somebody that can like overhaul the air conditioning unit, but I'm talking about somebody when the toilet's leaking, they know how to take the top off and see it's the flap and just make a quick adjustment, or just pull it off and put it back down. You see, there's so much you'll spend in these stupid service calls with people that don't understand just even some basics, or aren't even willing to get their hands a little bit wet to fix that flap in the toilet. So if you're not renting to somebody that's willing to do that, you're going to find yourself spending a ton of money on service calls. So if I saved myself a service call every other month, that's going to save me $50 to $100 a month. I'm now in the money even more. So these are some things that I think as a first time landlord that you should know about and you should check into. And there's a whole lot more, but I hope this gets you started. If you have some questions you'd like to have me answer, type them in the comments below. But you may just want to be getting into rental properties. If you'd like to get a copy of my rental calculator that I recommend using, all you've got to do is text me your email address. You'll get it absolutely for free. You can text me at 435-294-0433. Text me your email address. I also have a video I've put together, questions to ask when investing in rental properties, things you need to know about. I'm going to link it over here. Also, I've got a blog, Can I Cash Out Refinances on a Rental Property? You're going to want to read up on that. Can you do a cash out refinance, getting money out of a rental property? Otherwise, make it a very profitable day, and bye for now.